and welcome back to the Full 10 Yards Betting Podcast, and welcome into our Week 18 preview, where we try and win some money in probably the most difficult betting week of the NFL season. I'm Liam, your host, and as always, I'm joined by my friend and your friend, is of course Adam, Mr. Touchdown Tips. How you doing, mate? After a big Week 17 for your team, at least.
Yeah, kept them alive for another week. Obviously, it's practically impossible, and there's a big spread on the Broncos game, which the Bengals need them to lose. But yeah, it at least made Week 18 more interesting. And yeah, last week was pretty damn crazy with the overtime and everything in the Bengals Broncos game. As I say, it kept it alive this week, made this week at least a little bit more interesting. And unfortunately, it also made it so that the NFL put the Bengals on at 1 a.m. But it is what it is. It's better than being dead and being shoved on at 6 and knowing that it's going to be a dud game.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they should have done the order the way around, I think, a few of us think. But 1 a.m. is a bit of a nightmare. At least it's Saturday, not Sunday, because 1 a.m. Sunday it is crap. But yeah, that was a very entertaining game. Unfortunately, it cost me my only my loss of the week. I went under 50.5. I would have got there in regular time. And I was way ahead of it as well to that fourth quarter. It looked like a guaranteed win. And then all of a sudden, everyone started scoring in the fourth quarter. But overall, we still had a good week. We were, 9 out of 12 last week. So we had one loss each, which was really good. We actually all lost in a different category. So Tim lost his game of the week best bet. You had your spread, and then I was the total. So I think that's our best week in terms of not one person getting a 2 across the board. So that was good. And I don't want to brag, but I am 11 out of 12 for my last 12 bets. So I'm on a roll. I'm like Patrick Mahomes in December. I'm on a roll. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I can keep that going. I'm not very hopeful about week 18, to be honest, to keep that one going. But yeah. Let's break it down then. Let's talk about some games. The game of the week for everyone listening is very, very obvious. Vikings at Lions, the game we picked for this week. The spread is Lions minus 2.5. And the total has been fluctuating, but it's 55-56, depending on where you go. Sky Bet is the highest I've seen it at 56.5. And Virgin actually had it at 55 dead on this morning. So depending on which side you like, there's a couple of totals there that you can go with. Before we do best bets, what are your general thoughts on this game? Is kind of the game that's probably saving the week a little bit. It's not the best slate of games this week, and if the Vikings would have lost last week, I think this would have been one of the worst, if not the worst, week 18 I've seen. So I'm glad that didn't happen, and we've got one good game. But are you going to stay up and watch it? Is that sort of game for you, or are you just going to find out what happens Monday?
Nah, I'm back at work for the first time in 2 weeks on Monday, so I will not be staying up for that one. I'll stay up until that one. I'll be probably watching through the slate at least. There's always bets to be put on. There's always players you can bet on and ways to make money, which makes the evening a little bit more interesting. But yeah, as we've kind of alluded to, the Bengals at least kept it interesting for this week, because if Broncos had won, then the AFC would have been pretty much all wrapped up. The NFC would have been pretty much all wrapped up. I think it essentially is. There's obviously NFC South is the interest in the NFC side of things. But yeah, at least with the Bengals keeping the Broncos down a little bit, there's something a little bit more interesting, but it's still not great, obviously. The Broncos should win. They are big favourites against the Chiefs, because the Chiefs are going to play their backups, as you said. But yeah, there's a lot of dud games and a lot of kind of nothingness. So it'll be, it's always a weird one in Week 18, and this one seems especially weird.
Yeah, you got the Broncos, the Bengals and the Dolphins fighting for a chance for the 7th seed in the AFC, and then NFC South between Falcons, Bucks. They're the main ones. And then there's some seeding stuff. Steelers, Chargers could swap seeds. Then you've got the Packers and Commanders as well that could swap seeds and determine who they play. But yeah, the Vikings-Lions game, definitely the most important. The winner of this wins the North. The winner of this also is the 1 seed in the NFC. So they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which will be really important. Do you think this game will go similar to all the other NFC North games? It seems to be this big, high-scoring shootout. We'll talk about our best bets later. But a lot of people seem to think that. But these two teams run the ball a lot as well. So I'll be interested to see how this game actually looks.
Yeah, obviously last week the Packers-Vikings game was the Vikings walking it until basically the fourth quarter. And then, as you said, it turns out into another high score and another close game. The Packers-Lions earlier in the season was the same. I think Vikings-Lions was high scoring and quite close as well. So yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be the same again. Obviously, the Lions still have issues on defense. and they still have a very good offense. So, it seems to be the pattern of the Lions games with people beating up on defense that they do let up a lot of points, and we know they can score. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've stayed away from the total for once, but I don't know which way I'd go because it is 55-56. But then again, they could quite easily score 70 between them. So it is a tough one for me to pick on the total personally.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm hoping it'll be a fun game. I know that always means points, but I hope there's some fun element, whether it's big plays, whether it's crazy plays, Ben Johnson calling up some random fumble, falling over, Penny Sewell touchdown or something. But yeah, I hope it is a fun game because, like you said, I think Saturday there's one of the games should be good. I think there's probably maybe two others on Sunday that should be okay. But this is the game we all kind of need to be good. I think for the weekend to still be worth some of us staying up and watching the game. Cool. Let's go over to best bets. Why don't we start with you because you've stayed away from the total, and then me and Tim have picked the total. So, what's your best bet for the week?
Yeah, I personally think the Lions deserve the 1 seed in the NFC, and I think they'll get it. I think they'll win this game, and I've gone with them winning by -2.5. I think you can get that line on Sky Bet. I know my NFL scores app had it as 2.5, although 365 is showing 3. So obviously go for the 2.5 if you can. If not, it is a little bit tougher. So maybe just kind of outline it and get under the 3. But yeah, the Lions, I think they're for me, they're the best team in the league. They are incredibly fun to watch. They're going to put up points, and if they do manage to get players back on defense over the next, well, obviously if they get a 1 seed, they get the extra week, which will be massive for them. If they do that, then I don't see why they won't make their first. I think it'll be their first Super Bowl. I know they've not won one. But yeah, it would be nice to see the Lions there, and I think they are the better team. I do like the Vikings. I genuinely don't know how they've made it to 14 wins. To be honest, like they don't have the kind of explosiveness that other teams have, but they obviously have a solid defense, and they're very well coached, which is why McConnell's like 1 to 10 to win Coach of the Year. But it does kind of boggle me a bit every week that they still manage to grind out the results, but they obviously know what they're doing. They obviously do it. So fair play to them. But I just think the Lions are the better team.
Yeah, they probably got the best or second best 1, 2, 3 weapons with the 2 wide receivers, tight ends as well, with Addison, Jefferson, and Hockenson. And I think that's been a big part of their success. And then Kevin O'Connell's been incredible this year at coaching. Well, he's been good since he's been there, to be honest. Like the Kirk Cousins teams weren't as good as he made them, and even last year they had Josh Dobbs came in and start a few games, and he won them a couple of games with him as their head coaches then. So yeah, they are a very, very well coached team. My best bet isn't the spread. I think I picked the Vikings plus 2.5 on my pod, but that was more because we're in a competition. My co-host also picked that, so it meant I didn't lose a game against him because I found this one too hard to call. I could see the Vikings definitely winning just because of the Lions' defensive injuries. But as we said on our pod, there is always the chance if the Lions go. But they played each other earlier in the season, and the second quarter, the Lions went touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And that kind of ended the game. And they have that power on offense. Whereas I think the Vikings are still good on offense, but I don't think they're going to go touchdown, touchdown, touchdown in a quarter. They're not Lions Bills level of explosive on offense. But yeah, I think it's a good shout. They've definitely been the better team all year. It's just can they withstand all those defensive injuries and win this game? But yeah, I think it should be a fun game. I think the NFC is more interesting if the Lions are the 2 seed because I think that makes the wild card and all the seeding quite difficult. But you're right. The Lions need the 1 seed of all their injuries for sure. They need that week off probably more than most teams. I would say. So yeah. In terms of mine and Tim's best bet, I'll put the graphic on the screen because we've gone the opposite side. Unfortunately for our best bets. So Tim's gone for over 55.5 on the line. I've gone for under 56.5. Sky Bet has 56.5, and Virgin Bet has 66.5. So, depending on which side of the line you like, people make sure you shop around and get the best one. But yeah, in terms of my reasoning, I think his reasoning is very obvious. These two teams score a lot of points. Lions best scorers in the league. They have 60 points the first time they faced. And yeah, I think that is a way to go. I couldn't pick the spread personally, and I nearly went for the Vikings line for their over as a team, but I decided just to go for under in the game, mainly because this game got 60 points last time and it required a special teams touchdown, and it had, I said, a quarter where there was 21 points, a quarter there was 19 points. I think that's hard to replicate. It's not like they were scoring the whole game. There was 2 quarters where it was quite low scoring. They just had real big surges in the second and fourth quarter. So I guess I'm just going to bet on that, a bit of variance, maybe a couple of field goals instead of touchdowns. Both these kickers have missed loads of kicks in the last 3 weeks as well, both, especially the Vikings kicker. So yeah, I'm going to bet on a bit of variance. It's the highest total of the season that we've had, and I think it'll still be high scoring. I'm going to be sweating out to the end, but I think it could be more like a 49-51-ish total, and I just about cover it. But I understand why Tim's picked over. I think most people would probably pick the over 55. Any other thoughts? I know you said you haven't got a view on the total, but any other thoughts on it?
No, obviously I'd be leaning the over. I'm the same with Tim on that, and I just said 31-29, even with kind of random events happening in that one. With the kickers being poor recently, they could be going for it a little bit more. We know that the Lions will probably go for it on fourth. The Vikings will then have to, because they need to keep up with them, which in theory should have more scoring. But yeah, it's too high a total for me to take the over personally, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's 60-70 points.
Yeah, I took last week's biggest total the under, and I've tried to do it again, so we'll see if I get good luck or if someone hits a field goal to beat me by a point or something right at the end, and I'm just like, okay, right, stop betting unders for the rest of the season. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully, it should be a good game. Let's go on to best spread of the week. And why don't you start us off with yours, mate?
Yeah, I've gone with your team. I've gone with Chiefs plus 10.5. Obviously, it's the Chiefs reserves, but even then, they're not that bad. Carson Wentz is all right. The running back is obviously they're kind of in between players, but we've seen Carson Steele and Samaje Perine get work this year as starters, so you know that they're not that bad. Basically, the Broncos obviously need to win. I think the Chiefs want the Broncos to win, so I have no doubt that the Broncos will win, because I'm sure they would rather face them than the Bengals or possibly the Dolphins. I mean, you'd rather face the Dolphins, but
yeah, you'd rather be
yeah. But the Chiefs dominate their division. They're gonna kill the Broncos if they get the chance to. So they will definitely prefer to play them. So I do think the Broncos win, but I think 10.5 is far too high for me personally. I think even with the Chiefs being able to rest players, they've still got the bye week next week, so that it'll be 2 weeks rest, and we've seen that 3 weeks rest of players isn't ideal. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get a few starters playing for the Chiefs. But yeah, I just thought the spread was too high. We saw Bo Nix is not that great. Their Broncos defense obviously pretty good. But yeah, I just thought it was too high.
Yeah, it started off at 6 as well, so it's been bet right up. Yeah, I think it was 6 the minute the game's finished last week, and it's already up there. It got to 11, but now it's at 10.5, so it's a big number. I'm not sure that the Broncos will definitely win, because I do think the Chiefs are going to try hard in this game. Well, they just will. It's people playing for their job, isn't it? Because the guys they're going to be playing in this game are people that aren't secure. You know, they haven't got contracts. They're not going to be Patrick Mahomes with a 10-year contract. It's going to be players that are fighting for somewhere in the league next year. So I still think the game will be relatively close. But I think if the Broncos play well on offense and they go out and score a couple of touchdowns quite quick, I think it'll be hard, because the backup of the offense aren't going to be good enough for the Chiefs. But if it's a kind of slower pace game and the Chiefs go up first, then I think they've got a chance of winning the game. The Broncos defense has gone from number 1 in DVOA to like number 19 the last 3 weeks, and the Bengals did really well against them last week. So I think there'll be a couple of big plays. It's still Andy Reid, it's still Spags, but yeah, I think 10.5 is probably too much. I'm with you on that one, and you can put the game on and actually cheer for the Chiefs to win for once, which would be nice. So
yeah.
I can actually tell you about the Chiefs in a positive way, so that'd be good.
Yeah, it does make a nice change, and obviously without Mahomes out there, you know, the Chiefs might not get all the decisions, so it might be a bit more of a fairer game to watch as well. But we'll see. Now, obviously, I got to see the Broncos defense last week, and Zach Allen up front was dominant, and against the backup offensive line, he may be able to destroy the game for them. But if the Chiefs saw anything last week, they'll just keep targeting Riley Moss. And just keep throwing at him, stay away from Sertan, and give one of the, I don't know who you'd have on him. It wouldn't be Justin Watson, he's too small. Maybe Hollywood Brown a bit more work. Obviously, after having missing a lot of the season. I know DeAndre Hopkins is obviously on for He needs a couple of bits for incentives. So it would make sense that they go after Riley Moss with Nuke Hopkins and get him his extra bits of money.
Yeah, be interesting. Yeah, they're being a bit coy on who's not going to play. It's only Mahomes, Jones, Pacheco, Kelsey that are and Tooney that are guaranteed to not play, but they're being quite coy about everyone else. And it sounds like Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith are going to play. So there'll be some offensive linemen out there, which is better than 5 backups. But yeah, I think it's a good shout for you on that spread. In terms of my spread, I've gone for the Seahawks -6.5 against the Rams. The very rare Liam betting against the Rams, but I'm only doing it because the quarterback is Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think even though the Seahawks are on the road, there'll be a lot of Seahawks fans there. The game doesn't mean anything to the Seahawks as in standing. But Geno Smith has got incentives for this game. I think 3 of their players have got an incentive for 10 plus wins, which they would need this game for. The Rams traditionally in preseason always rest everyone. They've already confirmed they're going to rest Puka, Kupp, and Stafford. So I think the line should have been over 7. I think the Seahawks should go and win this by a touchdown, to be honest. So, the Seahawks have got no reason to not play people. Even DK Metcalf, I think, has an incentive. He's actually not on the sheet we listened to. I've got in front of me, but the podcast I listened to yesterday was talking about how he's got an incentive as well.
No, I'm stuck with whether that was that me or you dying. It died somewhere.
I think that was me maybe dying on my back.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you were talking about DK having incentives.
Yeah, so he and there's another player that I can't remember. It was the defensive tackle, but they've got incentives and up to 10 plus wins as well. So I think the Seahawks are going to be trying to win this game.
Yeah, I saw some stuff earlier in the week about Kyron Williams being ruled out, so Blake Coram's going to get some run. And there was another running back who was mentioned in that same article about for the Rams, but I can't remember the name off the top of my head. So if you're betting on props on this one, Blake Coram's probably your go-to. I'll be going for Blake Coram yards and touchdown if you can find any touchdown odds eventually. Liam, can you remember the other running backs that they were mentioning?
No, I can't remember the other running back they mentioned.
No, it was something McVay mentioned at the start of the week. He said Blake Coram's going to get the work, and then there was another name who I believe is probably RB4 or something like that, because obviously Kyron Williams will be rested for this one as well. So yeah, Coram's definitely one I will be targeting in the betting.
Was it Ronnie Rivers?
No, it wasn't actually. No, it was a name that I can't remember.
Cody Schrader?
Who? It might be that one.
Yeah, that's their 4th running back, Cody Schrader.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously see if you can get big odds on him if they do, even if they price it at all. Obviously, this is the problem with Week 18, is the bookies know that it's a bit of a crapshoot and they really struggle putting up lines. But yeah, for the record, I would definitely be saying Seahawks under a touchdown. I think that's obviously a decent bet, and yeah, with Geno needing 185, I think we said, for his incentives and the 10 wins, it gets him about a 2 million quid, so $2 million. So it's a big one. And there's no reason why they wouldn't go out for the win. I mean, they've got 8 months off after this, so why not?
Yeah. Sorry about my signal going there, but basically what you said, and the Rams don't want the game, the Seahawks do want the game. So I'll be surprised if that line's not bigger when we get to the weekend. Cool. And then Tim's selection, he's going for the Chargers, -5.5 against the Raiders. I have to check actually to see who the home team is.
It's 4.5 now at the Raiders.
Okay, yeah, 4.5 at the Raiders. The Chargers are going to be playing. They haven't said how long they're going to play, but they're going to play their starters. Again, I mentioned it earlier. They can be the 5th seed. They could go on the road to Houston rather than Baltimore, which is a much easier matchup. So they're going to try and win that game. Again, there could be a scenario where the Steelers maybe win and the game's not as important, but Jim's prepping them to play the starters. And I'd be surprised knowing what Jim Harbaugh's like if the Chargers don't play their starters for a while. And the Raiders are absolutely terrible. And I think that'll probably be Tim's logic. Any other thoughts from you on why Tim would have picked that spread?
No, you've got to imagine at least the half for the Chargers starters. Obviously, see what the score is by then. But yeah, the Raiders have been awful this year. And yeah, it's the Raiders. Realistically, they need a QB, don't they? So they want to lose this game really, and they want to get as high a standing as they can in the draft. I assume they're top 3 at the moment. I can't remember who was 1, to be honest, at the moment. I know the Giants are 4. I don't know why I know that one. But yeah, I assume the Raiders are above them. I think the Browns are above them.
It's the Patriots that are first overall after that loss, and they're going to play. They're going to play Drake May, which seems a weird decision. But no, the Raiders before 2 weeks ago were second. Sorry, before last week was second. They won last week. They're now 8th.
Oh.
So they really need to lose. You've got 5th to 8th all on the same amount of wins, and then the top 4, which is New England 1, Titans 2, Browns 3, Giants 4. They've all got 3 wins. So the Raiders could get as high as like 3, I think, this weekend. So yeah, they'll definitely want to lose. It's just Antonio Pierce probably coaching for his job, isn't he? But I still don't fancy them to beat the Chargers, to be honest.
Yeah, I think at 4.5 now it's dropped. As we say, it's dropped a point as well, which is handy. It's fairly safe to say the Browns aren't going to win. They are a ridiculous +20 now at the Ravens, which is unbackable. But people obviously are, because it was 17.5 yesterday. I know that they've announced Bailey Zappi's playing. I think he's the starter. He's better than Dorial Robinson-Thompson, so I don't see that as a downgrade. I think DRT is arguably the worst QB I've seen all season, so I don't think that Bailey Zappi playing is a downgrade for them. But yeah, 20 points is ridiculous. I would be forced to take the Browns +20 on that one. But yeah, I think it's safe to say they're going to lose. Patriots are only 2.5. When they're +2.5, hosting the Bills. Obviously, the Bills have locked up. Have they locked up second seed, Liam?
Yeah, they're the 2 seed. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got nothing to play for. But they're still the favourites on the road at the Patriots. That is a game I'll mention a bit. Actually, I probably should have left that one. And then yeah, the rest of them. Falcons -8 hosting the Panthers. The Falcons need to win. Obviously, we've mentioned the NFC South. If the Falcons win, they keep it. If they lose, it gives the Bucs the chance. The Bucs are 13.5-point favourites hosting the Saints, which obviously probably will happen. I would not be touching the Saints on that one. I'd probably say the Panthers +8 against the Falcons. I know they've looked better with Penix. He's been keeping the ball safer. But that line seems too high to me, because they can get 5, 6, 7 up and play clock management after that, which I know a lot of teams struggle with, but it does make sense. And I know you were going to ask me, but I've gone through mine. Any other spreads you like?
Yeah, well, I don't mind the Bucs. It's a big spread, but I do think they're going to win and make the playoffs. And the Saints are playing terribly at the moment, so I don't mind that one. But the only other one I thought was fine, a team that I just can't get right, so why I didn't put them on the sheet. Cardinals -4.5 against the 49ers. 49ers are going to be playing Josh Dobbs, and I just don't think that he is going to be as good as he was in Minnesota for that one game. And Kyler Murray as well is 50 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown off 750K. So I think Kyler Murray is going to be quite motivated. He hasn't played very well the last 4 weeks. He's going to be their starter next year, like financially. So I think it's going to be a big thing for him to end the season well. So I think we could get a bit of a kind of false positive Cardinals scoring 27 points and beating the 49ers game. And it kind of makes them think they're better than they are. But yeah, 4.5 I thought was okay, because there's so many massive spreads this week and so many backups. I think the fact the Cardinals have already said they're going to come out and play that they got as many of their guys that are healthy as they can, I think I'd take that. But apart from that, it's only the ones we've already spoken about, I think.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I've got to lean Steelers against my Bengals as well. It'd be typical Bengals for everything to go their way this week, but them to lose. I could see the Broncos and Dolphins losing tomorrow, and then the Bengals have already messed it up. It'd just be one of those. And yeah, we think that the Steelers are probably going to be trying to win that one for the whole game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be a decent one at 1 a.m. Even though they probably will know by then that the Ravens have sewn up the division. It should still be an interesting one. And yeah, I'd have to take the Steelers getting points at home. They're like home underdog for Mike Tomlin. That's his bread and butter.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take that as well, to be honest. They are the sort of team as well that there are teams that would not care about this, and I think my team is one of them, but they are the sort of team that would be like, right, let's just make sure the Bengals don't make the playoffs. Like, because the division rival, they'll be like, no, let's just do it to beat them. Who cares about what it means for us? But I think a lot of teams would be like, right, no, let's do it for us. We want to be the 5 seed. The Steelers are the type of team that I think the coach staff will be saying, let's just stop the Bengals getting in. We hate the Bengals. They're our rival. So, I'm with you. If I had to pick, I'd go 2.5. But I think that'd be quite a fun game, to be honest.
And to be fair, they do play well against the Ravens as well. So even the seeding doesn't mean a huge amount to them. I'm sure they'd rather play the Texans still. But obviously the Steelers' offense has been inept without Pickens. He should be back this week, so that does make a huge difference for them. So yeah, I think the Steelers will play well, and yeah, I'd be leaning that way if I had to on that one.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm not going to actually put money on this, but Jets plus 1.5 is interesting to me just because I don't think Sweet Huntley will play well 2 weeks in a row, and the Jets have still got some good players. But yeah, if I knew Tyrod Taylor was playing the whole game, I would bet it, but I don't, so I'm not going to bet it. But if you hear something on Sunday morning that says he's going to play, then I think it's worth a bet. By the way, earlier you hate DTR so much you kept calling him DRT. That's how bad of a quarterback he is.
Thompson Robinson, sorry, yeah, not Robinson Thompson, whatever. Yeah,
it's all right. You might not play again now, ever again. But
you've just opened up for me to get my dig in about Aaron Rodgers, though. That he had was it a bottom 20 QBR out of 7,000 last week. So that is the famed Aaron Rodgers who thinks he's the greatest quarterback ever. He had a bottom 20 QBR of 1.6, I think it was, or 1.2 last week. And yeah, out of nearly 7,000 results that they put together, that was bottom 20. So thank you for giving me the chance to say
that. No worries. We'll see if we get to talk about him next year. Cool. Let's move on then from spreads into totals. Got the totals going on the bottom of the ticker there for everyone who's watching. I personally found this harder this week. I'm not going to lie. With the backup situation, lines are all over the place. So I have gone for my own team and gone Chiefs Broncos over 40. I didn't really like any lines. I haven't got this big speech about how of an incredible bet this is because I'm not sure it is that of an incredible bet. However, the Broncos really will have to try, and they've scored quite a lot of points in the last 6 weeks. They're a much more offensive team. Their defense, like I said earlier, has taken a bit of a step back. And the Chiefs, I still think, will score points. I think Andy Reid will score you 17 to 20 points at worst, I think. So you only need the Broncos to score 20 if the Chiefs score 20, and you're in. And I just think the line's a little bit low. And all the other lines, for me, there wasn't many that I loved. So yeah, that's the only reason I've gone for it. It's not the best bet, as in I would actually physically put my money on, but out of all the totals, is the one that I felt most confident in. You've gone for over on a low total as well in your game.
Yeah, same reasoning really. I think the Bills are still going to score points. We've said before the Patriots are probably going to still be starting Drake May and seeing what they've got for next year. So over 36.5, I thought it was a low total. 20 points each. The Bills are going to score points anyway, even with backups in there. They will, because they're the Bills. And yeah, the Patriots, obviously, it's going to be a tight game as well. So I think I personally think the Bills will take a win into the playoffs, and yeah, it should be an interesting one. So yeah, 36.5. It was a low total. It just depends on weather. I'm not sure what it is in New England. We know it's not in Buffalo, so you won't get the snow. It'll be cold, but both teams are used to it. So yeah, over 36.5 and Bills Patriots.
Yeah, I think again it makes sense with how low the line is. And it's just week 18, so it's tough to pick some of these spreads. Tim's gone back to the well of his own team. He's gone for Cowboys Commanders over 43.5. Commanders can have an impact on their seeding. If they don't want to go and play the Eagles, then they need to win to stay the 6th seed in case the Packers win and overtake them. So they'll be playing their starters. Their offense has gotten better again over the last few weeks. And Cooper Rush seems to be putting up more points than at least I thought. So I can see some logic in that. But there is no CeeDee Lamb. So I think you are requiring on Washington to do some heavy lifting for me on that total. But I can see why he's picked it because it's probably lower than I thought it would have been, to be honest. Any thoughts from you on that spread or total?
No, basically the same as what you just said. It was 60 points, 34-26 when they played earlier in the season. Obviously, that was with CD Lamb, who he didn't find the end zone at least. But yeah, Cooper Rush seems to have been playing a little bit better recently. Obviously, Rico Dowdle's running it well. You've got the likes of Jalen Tolbert, who seems to be scoring most weeks now. He's been done pretty well. That was weirdly, yeah, just looking through the box score in that game, there was only 2 passing touchdowns, but the Cowboys scored 34 points. So yeah, I don't really expect that to happen again. But yeah, I mean, it should be a fun one, ish, for in comparison. Yeah, weird game that one, but yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think if one team has something riding on it, even if it's seeding, there's a higher chance it'll be a more normal game than the games that are just two dead teams. So I think that pick makes sense. Cool. Let's go on to touchdown scorers then. Me and Tim have picked the same person, and he was in the sheet first, but I've just had to take the low-hanging fruit with this one, unfortunately, to try and get a win in week 18. We both picked Mike Evans, best price, I think, 4 to 6. Again, some places will have their odds out, though, so look nearer to the time, there might be a change in those. And I think him to score 2+, Adam found earlier, was 7 to 2. Don't know if you remember where that was. Was that 365?
Yeah, basically 365 is pretty much the only place that's got anything. Cool. So yeah, hopefully we'll get better odds on game day. But yeah, the last week of the season, the bookies don't know who's playing, so they're not even risking anything. It is very tough to pick anything, and we've done this on a Friday, hoping that there'd be more out there, and there really isn't. So yeah, it is a rough one until probably Sunday morning, and even then, you're not going to be getting great amounts of people until probably the afternoon.
Yeah, but yeah, Mike Evans is a good bet normally, and this week, they need to win. Baker Mayfield's thrown 40 touchdowns. The offense is really good. He's playing really well. He has got incentives. They're more yards and receptions based, but he's a red zone threat, so those receptions and yards could often come near the end zone. Or again, he's Mike Evans. 40-yard pass down the middle of the field could turn into a 60-yard touchdown. So, yeah, I think it's a good shout from both of us. They need the game. He's playing really well now since he's been back off injury as well. So yeah, I think that's a good shout for us on Mike Evans. Hopefully he doesn't have a bit of a goose egg and no touchdown and kill me and Tim both on one bet, but we'll see. Who have you gone for your touchdown score? It's a bit of a better price than us.
Yeah, I know you said about being safe and picking someone who's probably going to score. But yeah, I've gone with Keaton Mitchell at 3 to 1 for the Ravens. Obviously, they're 20-point favorites against the Browns, so I think it's safe to say they're going to rotate their stock by the end of the game. He got 11 carries last week, only 20 yards, but he did have a reception for 28 yards. And he's not found the end zone this year, so I think that they will probably try and get him a touchdown. And at 3 to 1, which is the best I could find at the moment, you might be able to get better later in the week. I thought it was a decent bet. I can't imagine Derrick Henry paying more than a half. He probably won't need to. Justice Hill obviously has been a decent backup, but yeah, I think Keaton Mitchell, they loved him last year before he did his ACL, and obviously he's been eased in back in this year with coming back from that injury. But he is very quick when he gets going, and he's sneaky as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he can find the end zone. And at 3 to 1, I thought it was worth a shot. I'll be putting him in my accumulators this weekend, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense. They definitely want to be resting Derrick Henry. So if it goes well, the first quarter, first half, then yeah, they're going to be pulling out their starters to some extent, and they'll probably run the ball a lot as well because they're not going to want to throw it with the backup QB a lot. So yeah, I think that's a good shout. Some players that do need touchdowns for incentives. Tony Pollard needs 2 rushing touchdowns, so he'd give you one to put in your accumulators, or 2+, or even bet him just straight up. Zach Ertz as well, receiving touchdown. He's been really good for Washington recently, so that might be another one. Kyler Murray that I mentioned earlier needs a rushing touchdown for a good sum of money. So yeah, there's a few players that need a touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins needs one as well if he ends up playing. So yeah, there's a few players that need a touchdown. So I think you can use that as incentives to be like, right, they might get their players a score at least. Now, I think the bookies will know that to some extent, but they're not going to put Zach Ertz ridiculously low because of that. Like, they still have to have some action on either side of the bet to make it worthwhile pricing. So there might be the odd one like Mike Evans they put down, but they're not going to go into the depth of Tony Pollard for me. It might not be the best price, but they're not going to mark you down too much. So yeah, just have a look on Sunday when those lines are up at what you guys can get. Cool. Are there any other touchdown or player props you wanted to mention?
The player props we mentioned, Mike Evans needs 85, I think we said, for 1,000. Me is, what, 12th in a row? 13th in a row?
Yeah.
Basically 1,000 yards in every game of his career. His line is 99.5, which is not useful for this at all. But again, he probably will get there because they're going to feed him the ball. I did have a quick look at Payne Durham, the backup tight end for the Bucks. He got a bit more involved last week with K. Dotson out. But again, he's only 3-to-1 ish. I think it's 10-3 where I've checked just now. So not one I'll be looking at. But yeah, just keep an eye as much as you can on players who are going to play and players who aren't, and which coaches are going to be benching players, and see if you can get ahead of the bookies and try and pick out some big bets. Or on Paddy Power, you can go in play. But again, I think that'll be limited this week. I think they'll probably limit it just to televised games. I think they're going to be very cautious with things this week. And I think realistically, save your money for next weekend, but that's boring. So try and find some big odds if you can. I had an 8-to-1 winner on Foster Moreau last week, which I was pretty happy with. So yeah, try and find something like that.
Yeah, we'll take 8-to-1s if we can get them for sure. But yeah, also have fun, but gamble responsibly. We don't want to be the ones to tell you to lose all your money.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, there are a couple of other players. Again, I don't know their totals. I'm not going to look at their totals, but you guys can look them up depending on where you bet. But Tony Pollard needs 83 rushing yards. J.K. Dobbins only needs 58 rushing yards. And the other one was Cortland Sutton needs 82 receiving yards. And Cortland Sutton's is actually for £2 million. So $2 million. So that's a big figure. His line's probably in the 60s, 70s. Maybe it is as far as 80 now, but they want to win the game. But if they are winning the game, just say they're 17-3 up, that quarterback is going to be throwing to Cortland Sutton all the time to get him that, because it just only helps his relationship with his receivers. So, there's a few other ones there. I know we mentioned Geno, Mike Evans, Kyler earlier, but yeah, you've got those guys. And also Dawson Knox, 80 receiving yards for $200,000. Kincaid's their starter now. Even though they put Mitch Trubisky in, they could easily leave Dawson Knox in as the tight end and say, come on, let's see if we can get him some money. So, yeah, there's a couple of players there that people can put in different bets. And, yeah, I think Unibet let you toggle their line sometimes. I don't know if they've done it as much this year, but you can move it down or move it up, and then the odds obviously change depending on what you put. So, yeah, have a look around, see what you can get. But there's some players I thought was worth calling out there for incentives.
71.5 is Sutton's receiving yardage line at the moment, so obviously we're kind of suggesting take the over on that one. I would be suggesting Marvin Mims over 32.5. Obviously, he had a couple of touchdowns against the Bengals last week, and he probably won't be getting McDuffie or anyone like that for the Chiefs. So it's probably a decent one. He seems to be getting a lot more involved recently, and was highly valued coming out of the draft, to be fair. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over. Not incentive based, but something interesting. Yeah, there's a big list of about 30-40 odd players or incentives that if you can probably find on Twitter if you have a nose around. I will not put it up because I'm 90% sure that some bookies follow me, so, or at least pay attention to things. And it seems like if I mention things, then they get changed. I know that might be me being a bit paranoid or big-headed, but I won't put that one up. But you can find it if you want.
Yeah, you can go out there. It's all over Twitter if you want to find it. I think Toad Sports put it out. But yeah, there's also loads of sack ones on there. I'm not going to read them all out, but sacks are the highest incentive bet you can clearly put in contracts. And Virgin Bet definitely do it, and Paddy Power used to do it. You can bet on sacks. Now, if they've got 1.5, you're kind of screwed because they don't do 2+ sacks lines. But if you need someone that needs 1 sack, so Dante Fowler needs 1 sack, Calais Campbell needs 1 sack, Bud Dupree needs 1 sack, Von Miller needs 1 sack for $1.5 million. They're players you can go and put a bet on. Definitely a Virgin Bet. So yeah, go have a look around and see what you can get. Cool. Let's recap our best bets then for week 18. See if we can win people some money. In terms of the spread, Tim's gone for the Chargers -5.5 against the Raiders, but you can get 4.5 now. I've gone Seattle -6.5 against the Rams. that line I think might go up, so I'd bet that as soon as you can. And Adam's gone for the Chiefs for once, which makes me very happy. Plus 10.5 against the Broncos. Our totals: Tim's gone for over 43.5 in the Commanders-Cowboys game. I've gone for over 40 in the Chiefs-Broncos game. And Adam's gone for over 36.5 in the Bills-New England game. So 3 overs there. We're optimistic for week 18. And then touchdown scorers, me and Tim have both gone for Mike Evans at 4-6. And again, you can get 7-2 for 2+ if you fancy him to have a big day. And Adam's gone for Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens, who's their backup running back at 3-1 at a much better price than we have for Mike Evans. So yeah, there are our best bet. We are going to be sticking around for the playoffs. I think the plan is for the next couple of weeks, we'll be doing a best bet in each game between us. And then when we get to the championship game, we'll work out how we want to do it. But there'll still be, 4+ bets that we would recommend for those games as well. So, please tune in. Please like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Please follow us at Full 10 Yards on Twitter /X. And then also follow Adam at Touchdown Tips. We'll be back next weekend. Enjoy the weekend. And remember, please gamble responsibly.